That's sent to that. Don't worry about that. That means it's actually going to be
On YouTube.
on YouTube. That's but only people who know the link, which is private, so to speak, will actually know to come in. Do we actually ever have anybody come in on YouTube, Helen?
I have no idea.
I doubt it.
But okay. What it means is they would not show up.
Actually, if you go to the Disarm playlist, it will show up.
Right,
but it doesn't go to the home page.
Right, you have to know that. But a participant that way would not show on the participant list of this meeting. Right, Ellen?
I don't know. I'm not sure I understand your question.
There's a participant list for every Zoom meeting. You go to more and you look at participants and it shows you all the people signed in on Zoom. But if there's somebody listening on the YouTube channel,
no, you wouldn't.
They wouldn't show up on that participant list.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we have a quorum. Okay, I think we should start. Anyway, it's Super Bowl night. So.
And the score was 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. I just checked.
Who cares?
You need to know.
I used to live in Kansas City.
It's best to know what's happening in the rest of the world. Anyway, carry on, Diane. Sorry.
Okay, so we need a note taker and a vibes watcher and a timekeeper. The only thing we really would like is the most important thing is a note taker.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And then vibes watcher is very nice and a timekeeper is nice, but I will try to go very quickly through this regardless.
Okay, I'll try the time. I'll yell it out if people are
okay
over time.
Okay. I'll try to do the notes, but they won't be great notes because I have too many obligations.
Thank you, Jean.
I just want it understood that they'll be very cursory.
That I think I like that. So okay,
so who said they like that?
But I did.
Okay, Diane, you have to vouch for me.
Just make sure if we make a decision that you put that in.
Yeah, I'll just put down the decisions. Okay, I've got my notebook.
We don't make that many decisions, not voting ones.
Well, I'll say we discussed. If we came to a decision, good.
Right. Look at the agenda because Jean, the agenda has a lot of information regarding what we should be thinking about. So if you use the agenda as your template to actually insert your notes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, any revisions to the
and I will send you the link, Jean, to the YouTube recording so you can look at it if you need to.
Okay, good.
I have a couple of agenda additions.
Okay.
Even though I made it. So we need, I think in 4C, diffuse nuclear war, talking about March the 10th and the Oscars and the Oppenheimer film. I did send you all an email about the thought that we should use the Oscars and the fact that Oppenheimer's got so many nominations. Anyway, so I'd like to put that under 4C, and I'll talk more about that then. And then in 5 little 1, disarmament.
But where is it?
Pardon?
Where are the minutes? Where's the agenda? I can't find it.
It was on an email that was sent to you yesterday morning.
Oh, okay. So I have to go to email.
Yes. And then we have an invitation from WILPF Austria to attend a meeting hoping to put on about the TPNW with a stellar group of speakers.
Wow.
So I'll put that under 5 little 1. Which is continue to press for disarmament.
5A1.
A, yes, we don't ever have a B. We may have to drop the little A.
I think so. Anyway, okay, good enough. Those 2 additions. Okay, so now I don't think we have any new people, but there is a request to speak loudly And I have a request to raise your hand before you speak, ideally. Or, do something, raise your hand either manually or through the thing before so to keep the talking from being too much. Okay, so short reports on WILF actions since the last meeting, if your topic is not on the agenda and not to do with hot topics.
Just a quickie, Boston is developing a very simple website. That's it.
Great. Actually,
Boston branch.
Jean, I think this is where you talk about New York, because this is WILF items not covered in the agenda.
Okay, I'm trying to find the agenda, but I can't find it, so I'll just listen.
I'm putting it in the,
You may have sent it yesterday, but I can't find it.
I'm putting it into the chat.
Yeah, put it into the chat. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to say that we're trying to resuscitate a branch in New York City, which when it folded for peculiar reasons I won't go into, National just let it die. So we don't want to do the resurrection in the same way. And we have a list now of people who are paid up who live in New York or recently paid up but have not fulfilled the obligation to pay in a new year. So if you can see that list, if that list could be circulated, if any of you have lived in New York or know any of these people, we're trying to get addresses. Chris did not send any addresses. We don't have any email. We don't have any telephone numbers. We just have names. So I don't know how we would possibly get hold of people without any of those. Yes?
Cheryl?
Yeah, so Chris Wilbeck is under some rules about what she's allowed to send out about our members. So you have to
I've already
ask.
done it. I've written to her. I've written to her.
You need
Did
to
you
write
fill out
to
the form?
Darian. You need to write to Darian as
I'll write to
president
Darian.
and say,
Okay.
please give Chris.
She has to authorize.
Yeah, authorize it. Is that
She has to
right, Diane? Would that
authorize.
work?
I didn't think you had to contact Darian. You just had to fill out this form saying that you agreed to security measures and stuff. And then
Well, I
Chris
haven't
would
seen
send
the
that to
form.
you.
I don't know if the form exists.
Oh, it exists. I had to do it.
Well, if you have the form, would you send it to me?
Send her
heavens.
the URL.
Can you
Okay.
send it to me? I'll put my email address in the chat.
I don't need your email address. I just looking back, that it was like a year or two ago I got it, and I had so.
Yeah, but I don't have it.
Yes, I understand that, but Chris is the one who would be
I've been writing to her. I've called her. I've tried everything.
Okay.
She's
But anyway,
very busy. She's a very efficient person. I have great respect for her.
okay, but I don't want to say that you need to do that if you don't. At one time, that's what I had to do to get any secure data like that. And that is what I understand one has to do.
Oh, write to Darian. Okay, I'll put that in the minutes.
Okay. Okay, so now that any other reports of WILF actions that isn't in the agenda?
Martha has her hand up.
Oh, Martha? Okay, go ahead, Martha. Martha, did you want to say something?
Your hand is up, Martha. Put it down
No,
if you.
it isn't. No, it isn't. I don't see it.
Her hand is up in my screen.
Okay.
Look at the gallery view, Diane.
She put her hand down. I guess it was an error.
Put it down. Martha, we can't hear you. Do you have something you want to say? Okay, maybe she can't talk.
Somebody.
What, Jean?
Somebody's speaking. I can't hear them. They just sound like they're mumbling.
Well, in the chat, it says McGregor can't hear, but I now she can. I suspect it's something to do with her system. Fine. Being on a bus, it's hard to hear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not a question of hearing. I can't hear her.
You won't hear
Martha,
McGregor.
Martha, your microphone went off and then there it is. Okay. Yep. Martha.
Martha was trying to be helpful, I think.
Well, she can talk, she should be able, she's not mute anymore, so she has something to say.
I guess she's okay. She has her thumb up.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the minutes, oh, there she is. Did you want nothing? Okay. I guess she's okay. Okay. I think we weren't going to approve the minutes. Is that right, Cheryl?
Right.
you want,
Unfortunately, I did not get enough feedback from the right people on the last little bits of minutes. So, but I do depend on all of you looking through them. If it's really something I don't understand, can't fathom, I'll put it in red, and I often will send it just to you and say, please fill this in. Eileen did a great job in telling us about her trials and tribulations outside the Newton post office. So I've got that story straight now. But there's some other things. So please, if you see an email from me asking you to modify, revise, fill in this thing that's missing, do it right away. Else these minutes drag on until the next meeting. So we will not approve them today. Thank you. That's the 28th of January minutes, Jean, that we are not approving. We're not considering them today. Thank you.
okay, so the first top topic is Gaza-Israel war. And tomorrow there's going to be that global call by International WILPF. So that's at noon Eastern time. And anybody else want to say anything? Cheryl, go ahead.
Yes, so I've signed up for that. 9 o'clock I can manage AM, and it really behooves us to work with International WILPF. They have a lot more clout than we do at the UN. You know, they are listened to more because we're in consultative status with the UN. So I would like at least some of you here to attend that meeting, please. It's on Zoom. They're very well organized. I've been to several like this and see what they're saying. I read a BBC story about the famine that is already suffering. And you realize there are still hundreds of thousands of people living in North Gaza, right? The bit that's been bombed to hell. And the Israelis are not allowing, Jean says to get louder, the Israelis are not allowing the trucks with food in, right? There's an entry point in the very north of Gaza that was closed for months. Well, it's open, but then the Israelis stop these trucks bringing the food in, and there are children, and what they're doing is they're taking animal feed, hay, I suppose, that was supposed to feed their donkeys, and they're grinding it up to make flour so they can make their flatbread, you know, like pita bread is what we would call pita bread, I suppose. So, and, you know, so the UN is tearing its hair out because there's the UNRWA we've heard about. That's one group of people, but there's actually a whole different agency out of the United Nations that is also responsible for moving food and medicine about. And they are saying there are children going to be dying of famine, you know, and we just, you know, if nothing else, we have to make this clear to our Congress people and, you know, and therefore to the president. I mean, he is just refusing to not send the weapons. Okay, why is it that Israel can keep fighting? They can keep fighting and dropping bombs because we keep sending them money or the actual equipment that they drop on the Gazans. Okay, so we just have to keep on to, you know, our congressional and senatorial representatives. You know, apparently people trying to phone my congresswoman. She'd had so many calls, her voicemail box was full. You know, you should make sure that your congressperson's voicemail box, because they all have voicemail, you know, or they have websites where you send anyway. So I just trying to urge you all. It's I know it's heartbreaking, and you know, so we just got to keep pushing and getting more people to stand up in Congress, you know, and vote against these things. And the end, you understand that even though the current NDCC has not been fully authorized, okay, that's what they're arguing about, borders and wars, and trying to mix them together. They separated them. The Biden is currently arranging his budget for the next fiscal year, right? Fiscal year doesn't start till October the 1st, but because of the way this whole process is worked out, the president in early March issues his budget. He issues what he wants Congress to authorize. And so he's working on that now. So what we need to do is be writing to him to say, less military stuff, please, more healthcare, more student debt forgiveness and what have you. So you should also be dealing with the next one, because if he keeps sending these equipment to Israel, they will keep dropping the bombs. Yes.
Yep.
Eileen.
I would like to attend this Zoom meeting at 12. I don't have a development committee. Could you put the link into the chat for me? Thank you.
Now it says,
came
please, it's in the agenda. It says register here. You click on the here.
Oh, okay.
It's a blue thing.
I see the here. Yeah, yeah.
You see the here? Thank you. Yes, everybody.
Yeah, it was an international email that we all got, I believe, also. So, I mean, it came from, you know, WILPF International.
Yes, right.
Jean?
I just wanted to say, I kind of am disappointed that you say WILPF International has more clout than we do. I want to emphasize WILPF is so respected. It is very, very honored. And if we tell ourselves that we're not as respected as international, it gives us a way out of not doing too much. We are listened to, and we have been for a long time. And so I have to give a speech to an international organization because I was asked by a Columbia University professor whose specialty is authoritarianism, and he wants me to speak about WILPF. And that's just an example of WILPF is considered very respected. And so please, let's not say that we suggest that we can't do anything. We should really be on the phones. And thank you for mentioning that. That's very important.
Okay.
I just wanted to say there was a call at 11 o'clock. I don't know if anyone else was on it, with Margaret Flowers and the president of the National Lawyers Guild, and Ajamu Baraka was supposed to be on it, but never made it. But it talked basically about the South African case and other countries supporting it, and about UNRWA. And some of them have the opinion that Yemen is in the right to do what they're doing with the ships blocking the Red Sea. So I personally am not in favor of any violence, but theoretically they just disable the boats, trying not to hurt anyone, but just to make it so the boats don't get through. I just thought I'd tell you about the call. So every week at 11 o'clock, basically, this group that is the United International
Lawyers Guild?
International Court of Justice.
No, the International Lawyers Guild.
Oh,
She's
I'm
talking
sorry.
about.
No. It's
UNAC?
a special group that was started in December to try to get. It has over 2,000 organizations supporting it.
Right,
This
right.
is the internet to stop the genocide in
I
Palestine.
understand. Yeah, you've
Okay,
told us
so
about that. Lots of
yes.
emails. Mhm, mhm.
Today was a special webinar put on by UNAC, which is the United National Anti-War Coalition. Okay, time out.
Mhm.
Okay, Ukraine is the next. Anything on Ukraine?
I could put something in here instead of my usual report. Drones are being used frequently by both sides, both Russian and the Ukrainian side. The Ukrainians are sending weaponized drones into different parts of Russia, including Moscow. And it's pretty scary. They are, I guess, experimenting. But what I find most interesting is that more than half of them aren't working. Many of them are homegrown with bombs attached to them. So that's my story. And where did I get this information? Yeah, back up here real fun. It's called thebusinessinsider.com. Chris Pinella. I'll
You
talk
could-
more
yeah.
about AI when my next report comes.
Mhm. You can also, I mean, the BBC keeps track of all these things. So that's what Ukraine is doing because we're not sending them money at the moment. They are, building, they have factories where they're trying to build drones. And what you have to understand is there are a variety of sizes of drones. There's the drones we think about that are about this big that individuals can use to hover over their house or the children's baseball game or something. And then there's drones which look like small airplanes or, like glider planes that are much bigger, much heavier, much able to carry these bombs and what have you that they then drop. Or I think they can also fire missiles from them, but I'm not totally sure about that. But anyway, so hopefully you all read about the fact that that man who used to work for Fox went to Moscow and interviewed Putin. What was his
Yes.
name?
Tucker
Please.
Carlson.
Tucker Carlson. Thank you, Pam.
Oh, of course.
Tucker
And
Carlson.
so it was a 2-hour interview. I just read about it or listened to about it on the BBC News. He never challenged him. Tucker never challenged Putin on anything. War crimes, children abducted from Ukraine and taken to Russia, nothing like that. He let Putin go on and on and on about his point of view. He gave him a history book. He went back 1,000 years in Russian history, which we know, we've heard these stories, right? Why he thinks Ukraine actually is part of Russia, because he chooses to look back 1,000 years and say that therefore it is. So anyway, just that is, it's very unfortunate that this happened. I don't know that, well, he put this out. Tucker has some kind of a website, his own, anyway, he has followers. So that was really bad that he allowed Putin, and he didn't challenge him on anything is the unfortunate part of that. Is that time out, Eileen?
Yeah, you only gave it 3 minutes because
Yeah.
we've got to get to a game. Haha.
Okay, diffuse nuclear war. Roots Action will be working.
Right. So that's, I gave you the link to the Diffuse Nuclear War website. Diffuse Nuclear War is just really, it's an organization that helps anybody else who wants to do anything against nuclear weapons to get together and get banners and get signs and think about strategy. So what I really want to talk about is March the 10th. Okay. Officially, we have a meeting on March the 10th because it's the second Sunday of the month. We overlap totally with the Oscars ceremony, which lasts, 2 or 3 hours. The film called Oppenheimer that we have written a folder about, have been handing out this folder to moviegoers. I've been handing it out to anybody who I can meet about why we want to abolish nuclear weapons and it's got all the different House resolutions and bills that are in the House. So, but Oppenheimer's got 13 nominations, virtually every part of the Oscars. So its name is going to keep coming up. All right. So a different organization, and I sent you an email about this a couple of days ago. has approached or is trying to approach the head of the American Academy of Film who run the Oscars, right? And have asked him, please, somewhere in this 2 or 3 hour ceremony, acknowledge the fact that nuclear weapons still exist. They've done a great deal of harm, even without being exploded. So whether anybody's reached him, we don't know. But the other idea was to have watch parties. Okay, people love to watch the Oscars being handed out. Okay, probably second only to a Super Bowl game in viewership. All right, so it's been suggested that we invite our neighbors and our friends to come to our houses and to watch the Oscars being handed out, but to ply these friends and relatives with information, such as we have in that trifold flyer, information on how awful nuclear weapons are. We need to be getting rid of them. But in order to do that, we would have to cancel the 10th of March meeting, because we'd only cancel it if you would all promise to do something during the Oscars. So Eileen, you have an idea? Would you agree to that?
How about a half an hour meeting? Because Oscars, well, at least here, won't be starting during the start of our Oscars start around 9, I thought, around my neck of the woods.
Yeah, that's it
But
too.
could somebody, Pam, you're good at this. Somebody just look up when the Oscars actually start that day.
Meaning I'm suggesting a short meeting, that's all.
Right. But if you're inviting friends, then you want them in your house.
Oh, that's a good point.
So it seemed to me just canceling the whole meeting.
I'm going to be in New York. I'm going to the CSW.
Commission on the Status of Women.
Too. I'm going to CSW, but I'm here.
When you say CSW,
I
Commission on the
seeing
Status.
you, Jean. Huh? Yeah, the conference on the status of women, the WILPF get together the week of the 9th to the 16th. I was lucky enough to be invited to attend. So, and Odile also is going to be there. She and I are going to share a room.
Excellent, excellent. She
Yeah.
doesn't snore.
She's a good friend. I'd
Okay,
even
Pam,
accept her snoring.
You have your hand up?
Yeah, and the Oscars start at 7 Central Time. So, I mean, 7.
Sorry, 7 Eastern?
Eastern.
Yeah, 7 Eastern.
Right. So it
Mhm.
starts before our
Four.
official.
Isn't
Well,
that the type where you walk in and you're invited to see all the beautiful costumes? That the official must start at 8. Anyway, I get the point. Let's skip.
So can you all agree to skip that, but with the understanding that you're all going to try to use the actual event to, and I told the branches too, I would send some more email out, encouraging people to talk to their relatives and what have you. Okay. Is that okay with everybody? Anybody really want to have a meeting on the March the 10th?
Nope.
Okay, fine. Thank you. That's all I have on the diffuse nuclear war.
Oh, I have something.
Yes.
For Norman Solomon and diffuse nuclear war.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's just Norman Solomon, but I'm sure he'll bring up nuclear war. Our group, Peace Action Wisconsin, and the Interfaith Peace Working Group of Madison are going to be doing a joint webinar with Norman speaking about war. And I think it's going to be March well, we haven't really set the time. It may be March 7th. But as soon as I get a time, I'll let everybody know. I'll send it out. And Kathy Kelly's going to be the person who introduces him. So it should be a good program.
Right. So
Yeah.
in fact, he has offered himself. I get their emails. He has offered himself to appear at some webinar that your group is doing. Right? Am I right, Pam? That's right. And right. So we could. I mean, we've talked about the fact that we ought to be having more webinars like we used to. We Disarm Committee, and so using him as he's offered. I think might be something we should do. But let's listen to Pam's event first and judge whether it
It
would work
fits
for us.
with our mission. Okay, that's a good idea.
Right.
I'm getting confused. I thought the Oscars were in March. You're saying that they're,
March 10th.
yeah,
I said March. The next meeting is February the 25th. I'm not canceling that one. I've asked you to cancel March 10th.
yeah, I put
Got
in
it?
wrong.
Okay.
I just changed it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're on to campaign reports, and we have 11 current campaigns, of course, and something new. And so I guess the first one is Press for Disarmament.
Yeah.
Webinars you've attended since late January.
Right. And the recording of the January 27th, which was just before, is there. I missed it because I was in DC, but it was apparently a very good event with interesting speakers. So if I put you there, the recording, if you have time.
Thank you. That's great. I like to get
there are many webinars and talks now on nuclear weapons. I used to go to all of them about a year and a half ago. There's a plethora of them now.
Yeah.
Anybody
Okay.
else want? Because I have a couple. There's the next sentence, Abolition 2000.
Right.
I'll move to that if that's okay. So Abolition 2000 was actually founded in 1999, specifically to get the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, get its Article 6 really adhered to. Article 6 says that anybody who ratified that treaty, and that includes the US, will work to get rid of their nuclear weapons. And that's obviously not happening. So Abolition 2000, and they put 2000 because they hoped it would somehow by 2000 things would be moving along. But nowadays the 2000 means they have 2000 organizations who are part of their mailing list. Okay. So they had this annual general meeting, and it's worldwide. So they do it twice. And I attended the one that was for me at 10 o'clock at night, because I prefer a 10 o'clock at night to a 6 a.m. in the morning. So I offered to give a 1-minute explanation of what WILPF does, which I did. And we heard from many other, well, not that many, about 10 other organizations who were there. So these are people in different countries, all working towards elimination of nuclear weapons, both using treaties and including the TPNW these days, right? And the same people who helped start Abolition 2000 are the same people who worked to get the TPNW into existence. People like ICANN and people like that. So we were also invited to submit a up to 700-word article on what we'd done, what our organization had done about nuclear abolition since the last annual general meeting of the Abolition 2000 organization. So I and Diane and Ellen, your 3 co-chairs, have now created that 700-word report. And I just submitted it to them. It'll go up on their website. One of the reasons to spend the time is to get our name out there. We're always complaining that people haven't heard about WILPF. So it's a part of our advertising ourselves. And I will send you all a copy of that, what we have submitted. We try to highlight, and it's only to do with nuclear weapons. So there's nothing about Gaza or Ukraine in there, because that wasn't the purpose. Okay. So, and then just earlier this afternoon, there is this thing called the Nuclear Disarmament Coordinating Committee, all right, that's been going essentially since the TPNW came into force. And I attended that meeting. There were 52 participants from many different organizations. So all the people that I'm used to seeing at these meetings, including some of you were there. I know Martha was there. I think McGregor was there. So that is, you know, a group of people. So we heard a lot about what everybody's been doing. And so just to tell you again, don't feel alone in these efforts that we are making to get rid of nuclear weapons. There are actually lots of different people working on this. Some are just small, they're just in their town. Some are national. Some are like the mass peace action, and then the mass peace action actually has, I read somewhere, they have over 1,000 people on their mailing list. So they have within Massachusetts almost the same number of people as WILPF has nationally. So positions for social responsibility. Anyway, so they are, you know, they had this big meeting on January the 13th that I attended. I was a little speaker in one of the breakouts. So I know some of you went to that. And so these are, you know, I attend these meetings of, I consider we're a coalition, part of their coalition. So it's just to know that there are people out there, you know, doing the same thing and trying to beat down the military budget. I mean, that was the other, and the other thing that of course is obvious is we have to get the right people elected in November, okay? If we let the right wing of the Republican Party, the very right wing, you know, take over and push out some of our progressives. They're targeting the so-called Democratic progressives to get them out of office. So, you know, so as well as getting rid of nuclear weapons, we also need to protect democracy. That was we're not allowed to say anything about voting for anybody in our meetings here, but we can, you know, remind you locally, you can make sure your progressive candidates are re-elected. Yes, Pam, I see your hand. Can't hear you.
Oops, we have 1,000 people on our email. I think we have Nation Builder, and that's kind of the lowest number that amount you can pay, and you can get 1,000 people. Anyway, so interesting when the doomsday clock, and there was also a anti-nuclear webinar. I got the most people reading of all. 250 people read my email that I sent out about the doomsday clock and that. So people are really interested in that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you all saw the doomsday clock stayed where it was, 90 seconds, which is the closest it's been to midnight, which means the knowledgeable people who set it took everything into account. They take climate change into account nowadays, and they just said it's not gotten any better, right? Which is why it stayed at 90 seconds. Okay. Anybody
Okay,
else?
the report on Vandenberg. I
Right.
thought, did you want to go on
Well,
to that?
McGregor wanted me, but I think McGregor, are you still on the bus? I think she
I
is.
thought she was off, but looked like she was off, but she probably isn't home. Maybe she wants to
Right.
get home.
So if you don't mind, everybody, we'll put that later. I've asked McGregor to sign in again when she gets home, because she really is working very hard on the getting people to go to the next launch of the test missile from Vandenberg. And we do need to support her in that. So let's put that off.
Okay,
Oh,
so
now, the other thing was the invitation
she
from
is.
Austria.
There's McGregor.
It's okay. I'm still in the car. Wait till I get home. We're good.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
listening. Thank
Right.
you, Cheryl.
All right. So the other thing was this invitation from Austria. So while some of us were at the TPNW meeting in New York, we met some WILPF members from WILPF Austria.
I can finish this meeting. She can't see anything.
McGregor, would you please mute yourself? McGregor, mute yourself. So they have arranged something on February the 22nd, which is a perspectives on the second MSP and future activities. And their speakers include Ambassador Alexander Clement, who was the chair of the TPNW conference that got the thing originally signed. by enough people. And then people working in the United Nations Institute for Disarmament. So a lot of knowledgeable people, and then people from ICANN. It starts at 3 o'clock Central Time, which is 6 a.m. in California, 9 a.m. in New York. And if you want to be invited to get the Zoom link, there's a particular email address you have to write to. So I'm going to send this invitation, it only just came, to the Disarm Committee list. Okay. I think
Sorry, what was the date again?
it's the 22nd of February.
And what is
3
MSD? And say what the initials mean.
The second meeting of state parties.
MSD doesn't sound like state parties. What does it stand for?
Members of the states parties.
Okay.
That's what they call it. It's the second meeting of the states parties to the TPNW. That was the meeting that you were trying to get into in November and couldn't. So anyway, this is, we've got the TPNW. It's in force in 70 countries. We need to get more countries to sign on, because to me, we got to corner those nine countries that own nuclear weapons. We got to get them cornered, so the rest of the world says, nah, we're not having anything to do with them. And hopefully, that will be something where they will actually agree that they've got to start eliminating their weapons. So these are very knowledgeable people. Oh dear, that's my husband's kettle. Fine. Anyway, so some of you could attend just to listen to these knowledgeable people who work at the UN, work in disarmament, how they think we can move ahead. So that's another thing I will be doing for you all. As I say, you could spend every day in some webinar or other, and some I think are more likely to be more informative than others. Pam, your hand is up.
Yeah, and I just think that we say 9 countries have nuclear weapons, but really there's been a horizontal proliferation with the US doing weapons sharing. And I think we have to include those countries as weapons countries.
Germany, for example. Give us a few ideas. So Germany is one of them. Give me some more.
Yeah, Germany, isn't it Italy?
Italy was trying to stop it. Yeah, France.
No, France owns their own.
Pakistan.
No,
Yeah,
but I'm talking about the horizontal proliferation where the US is nuclear sharing. There's tons of nuclear bombs in Germany and 50,000 US troops there, and all kinds of B-61-12 bombers with giant bombs.
And several NATO countries.
Right, under the umbrella.
Turkey particularly frightens me.
Right, they have some. So these are what we call countries under the nuclear umbrella of other countries. So they've actually got weapons, and even though England has its own weapons, they're going to agree to take some US nuclear bombs and have them in some place in England, and which of course
Poland is asking for them.
Who is Poland?
Yeah.
So this is right. So what Pam is pointing out, which is very true, is I shouldn't just talk about the 9. I should remember there's maybe 22 or some number like that is where they are. Okay, so they're all over the damn place. And yes, Jean.
Well, Pakistan is in the news because of their election, and they have thousands of nuclear weapons. So
I don't think they're thousands. I think they're in the hundreds. Anyway, enough.
Well, it's in the news every day.
Okay, all right. I think we're ready, Diane, to go on to 5.2.
Okay, Norton's bill. And you have a video clip here of Congressman Norton speaking in Congress. Anything else?
Well, usually.
Have you seen that video clip? Have you watched it? She said very lovely things about those who brought the voter initiative in 1993, which led to her
I
bill.
can't hear.
Can you turn up your sound, Jean?
So that, So-
we can hear each other.
Mhm. So Eleanor Holmes Norton was invited or asked to speak at a subcommittee of one of the congresses, a subcommittee with the name Energy, and I can't remember its other name. And they gave her like 2 minutes, okay, and she actually was on the high podium. So she particularly wanted to. I thought it was very interesting. She said some congressperson has suggested that one of these new small nuclear reactors be put in the Capitol to provide the electricity to the US Capitol. And she says, no way you're going to put a nuclear reactor in the US Capitol, because my constituents, because she represents the DC area, would put them at danger for an accident, and so on and so forth. So that was the beginning. That was her entree into being able to talk to this subcommittee. And then, of course, she said, and I have this bill that would, eliminate them, and it's the TPNW. So she only got 2 minutes. And that link I gave you, cleverly, you can tell YouTube, I only want to hear, 1 hour into this video. So that's why it says at the very end, you'll see that it says, let me see, equals 5782S. So 4,782 seconds into it. And now here you go. Why don't we all listen to it? Thank you. I'm very pleased that the bill is endorsed.
Wait a minute, I gotta go back. And I need to do this again because I didn't do the sound. I apologize. Ugh.
The point is, she rarely gets an opportunity to mention this. Her bill never comes up to any committee, any subcommittee. So it's languishing there. And this was an idea she had, or maybe her staff had, to get publicity. Here we go.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not. All right.
Reactors of a variety of sizes is really important, and I especially am interested in seeing the deployment.
Last week, I showed you a picture of her last meeting when
on
she was in
incorporating
her
an advanced
youth.
nuclear reactor.
Timely.
5 minutes. It's not the Representative Fry show. Chair now recognizes, well, you know what was unnecessary? 2.5 minutes. Yeah, and I gave her 30 seconds, not 2 minutes. Chair recognizes Ms. Norton from DC.
I thank the chair. I would like to use my time to discuss 2 bills pending in Congress. One bill introduced by a Republican on this committee would require a feasibility study on incorporating an advanced nuclear reactor in the Capitol Power Plant at the U.S. Capitol Complex. Not only is placing a nuclear reactor in the U.S. Capitol Complex a danger to national security, it is a danger to my constituents here in D.C. in this densely populated city. I strongly oppose this bill. The other bill, the Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Conversion Act, would require that beginning on the date that the President certifies to Congress that all countries possessing nuclear weapons have begun the verifiable and irreversible elimination of these weapons under the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, the United States then direct resources that are being used for nuclear weapons programs to address the climate crisis and human infrastructure needs such as housing, health care, and restoring the environment. Monday is the 3rd anniversary of the treaty entering into effect, and 70 countries have ratified the treaty, and another 27 are in the process of ratifying it. In 1993, the District of Columbia peace activists were successful in getting a ballot initiative in the District of Columbia passed that called for nuclear disarmament. Every Congress since then, I have introduced a bill based on that initiative, including this bill. In March 1919, the D.C. Council passed a sense of the Council resolution urging the United States to approve the treaty. D.C. residents were early, prescient leaders on this important issue, which has become all the more important with the current wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. I am very pleased that the bill is endorsed by several major national and international organizations. I yield the balance of my.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really good. And while we're on the subject, I would just like to say, have you all seen the news today about Trump, what Trump has said?
What did you say?
I've
Yesterday.
got it here. I'll show it to you.
Can you stop your sharing? Oh,
I want
well,
to show
move.
it. Trump
Right.
says he wouldn't defend NATO allies from Russia if they're delinquent. In fact, he said that that he would encourage Russia to attack any NATO countries that didn't pay their dues, which is 2% of the gross national product. Yeah, that's
He said this, apparently he said this when he was president in a meeting.
And he said it again recently.
And then he said it again, and he elaborated on it. He was in South Carolina yesterday. This was something he said yesterday. BBC reported it. The White House has said this is unacceptable and dangerous for this person to be saying these things. And although we don't particularly believe in NATO, I do have to say that yes, we don't like the fact that Trump encourages Russia to put money into that NATO has a fee structure, and it's, you say 2% of their GDP.
Yeah.
Is it two? Anyway, some percent of the GDP is supposed to go into the coffers of NATO so they can build, have all these weapons and what have you. So we're not for NATO, but we're certainly not for the president, the ex-president, and a presidential candidate saying, if I were president, and they didn't pay their bills, I wouldn't go to their help. I mean, it's just awful, absolutely awful.
Well, he doesn't pay his bill. Is it okay if we kill him?
I know, right?
Shh. This is a matter of public record here, Eileen.
Well, I was kidding, and I wouldn't think of killing
You were
anybody.
kidding.
I'm a pacifist.
You were asking whether that he would say that was okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so you can find all the major news outlets are reporting this, not just NPR and BBC, everybody, and the White House made their statement. Of course, they're all trying to make out Biden isn't good enough, or his brain isn't good enough. But I mean, this is the same man who confused Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi when he was talking about she didn't stop that insurrection on January the 6th, talking about Nikki Haley, and when of course it was Nancy Pelosi he was accusing of not stopping it, and he got the two things completely confused. I mean, so one could argue both of them are not all there,
Okay, what's next?
Sorry.
Well, there's a sample letter that Cheryl has put in to write our Congress people to support this bill, Norton's bill. And then the next item is reports on actions with our coalitions. Warheads to Windmills has the book tour, book talks.
Yeah, so in March, Tim and Wallace is going to be coming through the West Coast. He has already a Santa Barbara event, and he has some further north. I'm trying to get him one in Palo Alto, which would be March the 7th in Palo Alto. So anybody of you who are in the West Coast, he's he's staying a couple of weeks and he's happy. You know what a bookstore event is. The author comes, talks about the book, and they hopefully sell some and they autograph it. But this is his book, which tells you how we should, if we eliminated nuclear weapons and the money spent on them, then that money could be spent on mitigating climate change. And he shows in his book, which I've got, which is very detailed, called Warheads to Windmills, how the skill set of the people who are making the weapons and somewhat designing the weapons, designing the missiles that deliver the weapons, that skill set can be transferred to people who need to design new windmills and ways of sequestering carbon and all those other methods that have been proposed to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide and methane in the atmosphere. So that's what he shows. He's actually analyzed who works where, and because other people would say, oh, they would have to move to work on a different problem. But I think the book shows that they wouldn't have to move, so that's why. So Judith, I don't know if he has a San Diego stop yet, but if you know any bookstores that do book events where authors come and speak, there's in the chat, there's about the book and the projects, and I could send you, I have Timon's email address somewhere. Anybody else on the West Coast? McGregor, I think, could you help him when
I am helping him.
You
I
are
posted, I'm publicizing his Santa Barbara events, the only one set up. And people here, we're going to encourage them to go to Santa Cruz because we're very close to Santa Cruz.
Right,
So yes, no, I'm helping him and I'm posting it. And is Pam on? Pam Richard?
Yes, Pam's on.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. I see Jean waving a hand.
Yeah, I'll be in California in March. I'll contact you when I get over there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to do something in New York. I have to say, read the book, buy the book and read it. It's highly readable. It's like a major reference book. You can pick it up and put it down, or if you have a specific question, you can look it up very easily. It's very, very readable.
And it only costs like $18.
Yeah.
Best try to buy it from your independent bookstore, not from Amazon.
Thrift stores, thrift books, it's less than that.
Thrift books.
Okay. All right. So
for those who don't have bookstores around the corner.
Okay. So that's what that section was about.
And it looks like McGregor is ready to go. Okay. So why don't you?
Yeah.
Speak if you want me to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to tell Cheryl and Joan and other people, thank you so much for coming and helping with setting up affinity groups. With the protests at Vandenberg, because Roots Action and Diffuse Nuclear War have taken up the issue of land-based ICBMs to eliminate them within the context of all nuclear weapons, within the context of it's the nuclear weapons that allow the United States to be such a bully in the world and relates it to Gaza and the rest of the burgeoning wars. It's a beautiful statement. If you go to Roots Action, you'll see it. So with that, the interest in the protest is rising quickly. I'm in the position, you see my dark, of be careful what you wish for, you might get it. I need help from WILPF. Wilf is in the leadership in here. And to keep Wilf's name and face in the front, I need Wilf help. I need Wilf faces, Wilf voices speaking. You don't have to be in California to do that. You can be a part of what's happening and is going to happen wherever you are. But specifically, especially people closer to the West Coast, we need people to serve in affinity groups to share your experience with less experienced direct action protesters. So if you want, I don't want to go into it in this group, but I'm going to send out, if people want to participate, they should get in touch with me and we'll invite you to our affinity group planning Zooms, which are small and invitation only. Judith, we have two people coming from San Diego, Dave Patterson and Denise Sellers of Veterans for Peace.
That's a very good group here in San Diego, Veterans for Peace. I'm happy to hear that.
I'm very impressed with them. They have the best material on climate and the environment and war. They're excellent. And they're planning to come and they want to see it. They said they want to witness an ICBM launch so they can tell other people about it. And I just feel like it's a dream come true because that's what I've been saying. Here you can see it. You can go see a nuclear weapons test. Yes, the hydrogen bomb is a dummy, but the missile is very real, and it goes over real land. It takes off from Chumash land. It arcs over the Pacific. It's tracked from the island of Kauai, where they had a frightening false alarm of an ICBM attack, and they know what it means. It arcs over Hawaii, tracked from the Hawaiian lands at Kauai, the Garden Isle, and it lands in Kwajalein Atoll, called the Ronald Reagan Test Site in the Marshall Islands, where from 1946 to 1958, the United States exploded 67 hydrogen bombs in the atmosphere. And even though this is a dummy hydrogen bomb, this is a terrible, terrible history. And I think that we, as Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, have been in the leadership, should remain in the leadership, but I need a few more Wilf faces to come. Please.
Could you say again, McGregor, I got in sort of at the end of it, where and when exactly?
It's at Vandenberg Space Force Base, which is located near Lompoc, California, on the Central Coast, north of Santa Barbara and south of San Luis Obispo. It is 144-acre base, very large, that has housed intercontinental ballistic missiles since the 1970s. All three generations of the Minuteman III. I'm proud to say that the proposed fourth generation, the MX, was stopped after massive protests in the 80s, both at Vandenberg and Livermore, which we hope to rekindle and stop the Sentinel, which is the planned $89 billion replacement for the Minuteman, which would be the fifth generation. But we stopped the fourth. Do you remember, Judith, when we stopped that? Huge numbers of people at Vandenberg, and it was the 80s, but there's a new interest. We can stop this.
So is there a date for the next gathering?
I'm going to wait and see if anyone else can answer that. Diane, can you answer that question? Is there a date for the next launch?
Yikes. I think it's like you have one 4 times a year. So I would think the next one is in March, January,
possibly
February.
March, possibly February. The answer is they don't tell us anymore. And I'm very proud of the fact that they don't tell us anymore because they stopped after February 25th, 2012. Which is 12 years ago today. The anniversary is coming up on the 25th, when Dan Ellsberg, Friar Louis Vitale, the late David Krieger, Cindy Sheehan, 3 people from Code Pink, Cynthia Papermaster, Toby Blumet, very brave women, Lynn Hamilton, nobody from Wilf. I couldn't be arrested that time because I was the organizer. But Wilf should be in the leadership this time because we've been there all along.
Right. So if I can just add, some of you may not be familiar with the concept of an affinity group, but McGregor has had somebody from Pache Ebene, who is an organization who help people who want to organize actions. She came and explained, her name was Rivera's son, and she explained to us what an affinity group would do. And there's a document that McGregor has that maybe we should send out. So essentially, we are a support group. We don't have to be there, but ahead of time, we're helping to raise money towards the expenses of these demonstrations outside military bases. We are making sure that the press releases go out, that the press releases are written and then they go out, and then we could also be emotional support,
Yes.
encouraging by maybe sending an email or a WhatsApp to those people who are, waiting. These things happen 11 p.m., 1 a.m. in the morning. It's always dark, which is why you can see it, because that missile has a fire at the bottom of it that's making it move. And so you get this arc that you can see in the distance, and you're a few miles from it because they won't let you any closer. But apparently the noise is really quite something, because it takes a lot of oomph to get a missile to go several thousand miles. So, and these are real missiles. McGregor has explained to me that I hadn't understood. They actually take the missiles from one of the silos in the middle of the country, ship it across to Vandenberg on the back of a big truck, I suppose, and then doesn't have its weapon in when they do that, and then put it in this mimic a silo. They have a mock-up of a silo that mostly are in the middle of the country. There are 450 silos that we know exist that are the sitting ducks for Russian ICBMs if they should fire first. So anyway, so they actually move and they put it in this mock silo at Vandenberg, and then go through the operation of sending it off. They have to give the Russians 3 days notice at least they're going to do this. Otherwise, the Russians will see this coming because they got their own radar, right? And they'll say, oh, shit, there's a missile coming from California, and that could start a war. So the agreement is whenever you're going to test one, you have to let everybody know, including the Russians. And I believe that North Korea has been letting people know too, right? They've been testing things. They've been sending missiles up. So this is an agreement between all the countries who own nuclear weapons that if they send a test one up, they better tell people.
China too, then. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that's part of the deal. So anyway, so a few of us have and then you go by train. So getting to this place, there's a somewhat complicated way of getting to Vandenberg by train from the north or the south. And McGregor's very good at knowing the schedule of the trains. And so Joan was there. Joan in the chat has put a summary of what an affinity group does. So McGregor needs a few more people, and she's also written a mini grant. Is making to make a mini grant proposal to WILPF, to the mini grant committee that's currently in hiatus, to ask for probably $2,000 to cover 4 launches. So it would be $500 each, because to actually get on the train from San Jose or from San Diego and get there is about $100. So we shouldn't really expect our members to spend $100 to take part of their own money unless they want to. But those who are not able, if you're going to go, we want to have some money. And in fact, in the Treasurer's report, we're going to talk some more about that, about later in this meeting. Treasurer's report, we've been giving money to organizations that really haven't really acknowledged very much that we've been helping them. So you're going to hear that the chairs think that maybe we should stop giving to Black Alliance for Peace and spend the money on our own actions. So that's going to come up later in the agenda. So please help McGregor one way or another. I'm done.
And I think McGregor put in, sent to all of us, but I'm not sure if she did, a great webinar that Lisa Savage spoke about these rockets going off into space and the effect that it has on our climate and change. It was great. And also, I don't know, the Pippi or somebody from another person. And then Tamara from Canada spoke on this webinar, and it was great. So I recommend that you listen to that.
But McGregor, did you send that to Disarm discussion?
Send that, but I did attend that one with Tamara. Tamara has been to Vandenberg. Tamara Lawrence of Canada has protested at Vandenberg with me and Carol Erner. So this is people who know what they're talking about. And I really hope this will rekindle and that WILPF remain in the leadership. So you can check with me anytime on this. I'm working on it all the time. I literally expect the launch to be announced any day.
Would you put your email address in the chat?
Thank you.
McGregor?
Thank you.
Well done.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, okay. So Gloria is not here for her to give a report on media, improving our connections with media. So Eileen, did you want to say anything about lethal autonomous weapons?
Yeah, I'd like to give you a little update that I also read in the Business Insider by Chris Panella. This goes back to the end of January, January 23rd. Evidently, there's a big attempt by the government to let people know that they are doing stricter review policies, stricter rules on the use of autonomous weapons. But it's said in such a clever way, they can get around it. I'm going to, by the way, anything I talk about is in the links that I provided in chat. You know, the early business about Ukraine, I sent you the report regarding how they were using a lot more drones, weaponized drones. This is also in, what I'm about to say is also in the notes in the chat. Okay, this story is really interesting. The Department of Defense updated the decade-old directives on AI to include stricter review policies. But I go all the way down to this article because there's a lot of just filler, basically. Of note, the US, Russia, Australia, and Israel argued there was no need for new international regulations at this time. This is according to the New York Times. Other nations, however, have hoped to use the UN as a platform to propose restrictions and limit how autonomous weapons operate. Okay, the Pentagon restrictions aside, the military is pursuing autonomy and artificial intelligence. You read at the very bottom. In August, for instance, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, her name is Hicks, said the department wants to field attributable autonomous systems at scale of multiple thousands in multiple domains within the next 18 to 24 months. This is a staggering push to compete with China, which wants AI weapons and systems as well. And I went to that keynote address that Hicks, the Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, wrote, and I took what I consider the takeaways. To stay ahead, we're going to create a new state of art, just as America has done before, leveraging attributable autonomous systems in all domains, which are less expensive, put fewer people in the line of fire, and can be changed, updated, or improved with sustainably shorter lead times. We'll counter the PLA's mass, the military for China. We'll counter the PLA's mass with mass of our own, but ours will be harder to plan for, harder to hit, harder to beat. With smart people, smart concepts, and smart technology, our military will be more nimble, with uplift and urgency from the commercial sector. We've all seen in Ukraine how emerging tech developed by, the commercial and non-traditional companies, Starlink and Switchblades, and we go on and on. But the bottom line is we are not taking our foot off the gas. In fact, we're accelerating, and I frankly don't know what to do about it. That's my report. Isn't that encouraging? Downright depressing.
Does anyone have anything to say? I thought
Save the chat because Eileen put further up in the chat the links to Ms. Hicks' speech that she just paraphrased for us. And
yeah, it's long, just FYI. I just took the meat.
Pam,
Well,
you had
got it. You got it with the final thing about the commercial sector. It's all for the commercial sector. It's all the private nuclear weapons enterprise and the AI private sector. It's sorry, I can't give you any words of encouragement.
I know. The private sector swooned in to the legislators, both the Senate, well, mainly the Senate, but also even the House, to do their talk. And
Do their bidding.
They're playing the fear card all along. China's gonna beat us, and well, why don't we talk peace? Go ahead, Nancy. Cheryl, you're on.
right, just to say that, I'm reading a book called The Rise of the Robots, which is specifically about AI. It was written a couple of years ago, an analysis of where it is, and this thing called artificial general intelligence. We're nowhere near to that yet. Okay, it's still all very much based on algorithms and training. We train these systems by giving them examples, millions of examples of what might happen, and then you give it a similar scenario and it can respond. But it's not really thinking for itself. All right. So we don't have machines that think for themselves yet, like a human would. But people at Google, so Google has bought this company called DeepMind, and Facebook has some similar AI subdivision.
Right.
But people who work for Google, especially, I can't speak to Facebook, some of them are refusing to work on these weapons things. Okay. So as you know, the Google employees, I get the sense reading about it in our local newspapers, some of them really don't want to have anything to do with military stuff. And so they're refusing to work on some of this stuff. But apparently, unfortunately, there are enough people who are willing, but they say they're short on AI experts, that our universities are not pushing out enough AI experts. There's a lot of civilian uses of AI, which a lot of you benefit from every day, unwittingly maybe. But then there's the military aspects. And so there aren't enough people coming out of our universities with the right skill set. And we hope.
Cheryl, it's very interesting. The government has made it very, they have protected the people who are working on the weaponized AI systems in the commercial sector. High level security around these. And guess who's paying for that? So I'm not surprised. Universities are a little trickier to control. So they've separated them into little cubby holes, maybe another building that they can truant better or keep track of better. As you know, the systems for high level anything, particularly AI, requires massive amounts of information to work DeepMind, to develop this massive. My concern when I first started this is that any little person could come around and make a drone that is weaponized, and it's still true. But to do the extra sophisticated stuff, you need a lot of computer power. And that means money.
Mhm. Right. Which
So-
is why people like Google have enough money to do that.
They do.
And the servers, as they call them. So racks and racks and racks of these computers sitting in buildings here, there, and everywhere, consuming a lot of electricity to run. And one could argue that that electricity is being, a lot of it's being generated by fossil fuel power stations. So the running of these computers to do the AI R&D is, contributing to climate change, because the electricity to run the computers, a lot of it's still coming from coal-fired power stations or natural gas power sources. So all of this is connected, which is why we belong to the Warheads to Windmills Coalition, because they're helping to show these connections. Anyway, I think that's enough, right?
Yeah, I think it's time to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
I'm willing to jump in really quickly and say that all of the things that you described are horrifying. And I think the entire world is aware of the fact that we are headed in a very horrifying direction. And it's my conviction, that's why we started, Diane and I are working on this project, Enduring Peace, the goal of which is to return and try again, one more time, to get an international treaty against international wars. This would be an end run around the problem. If there is not going to be an international war because everybody has joined this treaty, it could put the brake on, it could put the halt on. What would be the point of spending money on all of these things if they cannot be used? I know it sounds very far away, but I believe it is so urgent. I believe this is really urgent, folks, because of what you described is madness. It's a spiral into madness, so that I cannot say more strongly. I believe the hope is the rise of a woman's movement. Mothers, grandmothers, sisters, aunts, all of the women of the world need to rise up, unite, and say, it's enough. That's it. We are going to unite with all of our countries and all of our abilities as women in this world to save this world from what it is that the madness wants to do. The madness is all based on power and control and money. Money, which gives you power and control. But if we just continue to do the same thing that we've been doing over and over, we're going to get the same result. And it's this time it can be very perilous. So just a little pitch for PEP, our project Enduring Peace.
Right. Thank you. We will take that as our discussion in item 6, promote peace via treaties.
That's why I'm here today.
Thank you. That's what. So I actually haven't, because I hadn't actually got anything in particular to say. I don't know if Diane did. We'll just let Judith's plea stand.
Absolutely. It's a big plea on my part too. Yeah. I mean, we have to do what we can.
Now, you have another of these Wednesday afternoon events where you give over the Judith Adams.
Jane Addams.
Jane Addams, pardon, too many Judiths. The Jane Addams spot in Zoom, and remind us, when is the next one of those?
It's the third Wednesday always. I think it's the
21st?
The 21st. And Gloria McMillan and Andre Sheldon are going to be speaking.
Okay, thank you. Everybody note that down.
I have to get out an e-alert about it.
And what's really relevant is that Andre will also be talking about the need for a woman's movement.
Right.
Andre and I have agreed on this for many, many years. We're coming at it from slightly different directions, but we're both convinced that it has to be the rise of women. That just letting men go on and on doing what men have been going on and doing is not working. And if we shift the emphasis away from who is going to be in control, what religion, what political system, what power dynamic will be in control, and we shift it instead to what we're going to do is create as a place that is safe and secure and free from war for children. It's women wanting to create a better world for children. We have to change the emphasis, change the direction, and it's got to be women getting together and rising up. We're trying to organize how to do that. That's the plan. And Andre will be pitching the same idea, getting all of the women in the world to unite somehow or other. And we believe that PEP is the plan for uniting.
And Gloria McMillan, our communications expert, she will be speaking as well, Diane?
Yes.
Yes,
The
good.
two will be guest speakers. Right.
Mhm.
I
Great.
just figured she's trying to get out to make herself known about her survey and about the media and things. So I wanted her to speak too.
Okay, so she's not really talking about Andre's thing. She'll be talking about
No.
her project that we heard about.
Right. She's talking her own thing and Andre's
project.
talking
Okay,
his.
fine. Both very interesting. I hope you
Right.
all, I think it's 5 o'clock in California.
Pacific, yeah, and 8 o'clock Eastern time.
9 o'clock.
8
Mhm.
o'clock.
Oh, I thought you were talking about now.
I know. Okay. Robin is not here. And so then we are going to go down to work with other issue committees. And Nancy isn't here. Odile isn't here. And then we have the no to NATO stuff, which has been interesting to deal with. So,
And the peace walk.
And the peace walk, yeah. So Darian did try to get the peace walk endorsed. And the board had improved the $1,000 to support the no to NATO. So that hopefully will be in the mail soon. And does anybody want to say anything else about it?
Right. So we in the endorsing of the peace walk, which goes from Augusta, Maine to DC, starting on April the 27th and doing, I don't know, 20 miles a day walking. They will arrive in DC, they hope, on July the 5th or so, just as the no to NATO events get going. But they need advertising, they need help along the way. And those of you who are more familiar with the geography of the East Coast will realize that, and the route is a very detailed route. It's in that website I've given you there. Because 5 times a day they'll stop in these towns that are listed. So we have branches. We have a branch in Maine. We have a branch in Massachusetts, and we have a branch in DC, and we have. Anyway, so I need somebody from this committee, because I've got enough other work to do, to take on the relatively small task and well-defined task of being in charge of getting to our branches in that, anywhere within 50 miles, I would say, of the walk, and getting them fired up about the walk to help the walkers, to help advertise it in their local area and to turn out. So we did this for the Golden Rule, right? The Golden Rule went all around the canals and rivers of the East, and our branches who were close would help do the advanced publicity, get the people out, because I expect there will be some talks that the people who are walking will be giving. So we need someone from Disarm Committee to a volunteer, somebody who hasn't done much right now, please, or somebody who is doing a lot, if you've got extra time, just to go look at the route, look at where all our branches are, start talking to the appropriate branches and talking to the Peace Walk people. What is it you need? What can our branch do? So just, to be supportive. One could call us an affinity group, I suppose. And so sometime between April and July, April, May, June, July. So it's like 3 or 4 months. But we need I think it's something Disarm should be doing. So somebody from this committee, we need someone from the committee to put their hand up and say, I will be that person to coordinate. And I know, but the people here are, you know, are major people on this committee. Pram, did you say something?
Well, I'm in touch with Tarak, but I don't really know how to contact Will branches.
Say that again. You don't know how to contact Wolf Branches, did you say?
Right. Yes.
Well, you look on the website, and their email addresses and their phone numbers are on the list of all the branches.
Okay. And then write up a request for them and get them in touch with Tarak, or who is
Yes, whoever is running the peace walk.
okay,
that
I guess
something
he is.
called-
He contacted me. So okay.
So although
Yeah.
it says Milwaukee, Livermore on your name, you actually live some of the time in Maine.
No,
No,
never.
Oh, it's Martha who lives in Maine, but we've
Oh
lost
yeah.
Martha. Okay, Martha's gone away, right? Martha's not here anymore. I was
Right.
hoping that Martha would be persuaded to do something in the main part of the walk, the MAINE part of the walk.
Right.
I will try to twist her arm, but Pam, if you could do some of that basic
Yeah, and
research.
I'll do that. I can combine because I think there's so many peace action branches in New York State too, and he wanted some of that. So
Yes,
I'll do both. I'll combine my work. Okay. Which I
okay,
do all the time.
yes, we appreciate that. I see you in lots of other planning meetings, so that's great. Thank
It's
you.
good.
Anybody else? You know, let's see. So many of
Well-
us here are actually living in the West who are on this meeting. But Jean, you're in New York. Well, anyway, you're in New York City. I don't know if they go through New York City or not. But anyway, there's a website there, and you drill down, and it's very, you know, day by day, 5 times a day, they stop in 5 different places. And then there's overnight. They're going to stay somewhere overnight, you know, and so on and
The
so forth.
website called.
The website is in the agenda.
Yeah. It's
It's-
peacewalk2024.org. And
Slash-
Tarak is the person in charge. And well, he's the one that's really started it all. And I am planning on writing a e-news article about it for the March. So just to let people be aware of it.
Mhm.
So
I suspect, knowing how peace walks often are organized, you know, you can join them for a few miles, right? You don't have to walk the whole
right, he's
650 miles. You can
right.
join them and just be supportive and friendly, you know, and walk maybe 5 miles with them, something like that. So, Pam,
Or-
your hand is
or
up
we-
again.
It's a very powerful concept of peace walk, excuse me. But what is the ask? They're going to walk. They're going to say we would
Yes.
like people to. We want to live in a nuclear-free world, but
Oh,
what's the
right.
specific ask that they're?
Sign the TPNW.
Oh, okay.
US sign the TPNW. If you go to that website, to get it in the agenda, I smushed down what their website says, but I invite you to look at the website and see what their full detail is.
Thank you.
And
Pam,
Pam?
you have your hand.
So part of it is they need lodging. And when we had the longest walk too, I was living in California and organizing places to stay for the Native American walkers. And churches are really good places, and union halls. So if anybody comes up with any ideas, you can contact me and I'll contact Tarak.
How would you spell that name, Tarek?
Tarak, I believe.
Yep, I think so.
Correct. Okay. Is it a man or a woman?
A guy.
It's a man.
It's
Okay.
Veterans for Peace that's really sponsoring this walk.
Who?
He's a guy. He's a male, but Veterans for Peace is really sponsoring the walk.
Yeah, they are the original people, and now they've and eventually, when they've updated their website, you will see WILPF US listed as an endorser. And to endorse means we will help with publicity and along the way. We don't have to give them any money. If you're a supporter, you're supposed to also give them money. But we are giving money to the No to NATO section of this thing. Apparently, I don't know why or when, but the connection between No to NATO in DC and the walk is not so clear anymore. You go to the walk, it doesn't mention No to NATO. But if you go to the No to NATO website, specifically about the NATO summit in July in DC, you will see David Swanson says, we are working with our allies on the peace walk. Okay. So I don't know what happened when, but nevertheless, WILF should be helping with a peace walk that's asking to sign the TPNW and get rid of nuclear weapons. Whether they're saying no to NATO or not, we should do it for the other reasons that they're walking, okay?
So Pam, do you have your
I
hand up?
didn't-
Okay,
Oh,
Eileen?
it's still up. No.
Yeah, hey Pam, I think I could talk with some people in a church in Wayland, Mass, west of me. And they could possibly put some folks up. It's a pretty progressive church. I haven't been in it since somebody got married a long time ago, but it's probably still available. I'm sorry, available, open to something like this. They're pretty cool. They were pretty cool people when I met them. I can only inquire unless this man Trek has already contacted people in Wayland. It's a lovely little town.
So you see it on the route map.
Yeah, it's on May 14th, due to be Walden Pond. Well, you know who is at Walden Pond, walking to Wayland, and they're going to be tired.
Good. Well, thank you. This is just the kind of help we need. And so you can look into it and then you'll feed that to Pam, who will then feed it to Tarak. Sounds like.
It depends on where the path goes through Framingham. I may be able to help with that too, because I know a couple of teachers in that area. Not that schools will be available, but one's a librarian teacher, kind of, yeah.
Great.
So,
well, this is marvelous. Thank you, Eileen. And thank you, Pam, for stepping up.
Pam, I'm going to put my number. Oh, you disappeared. Pam, I'm putting my number in the chat for you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And his last name is Kauff. Kauff. Tarak Kauff. Kauff.
You want me to call him directly and keep you out of the middle?
Yeah, I'll call you and I'll give you his phone number because it's going to be a little tricky doing it that, the other way.
Probably get
if you give me your phone number, then I can, if it works out, I'll contact him to contact you.
All right.
Okay, good. So the next item we have is the disarm contribution to the WILPF US Congress. And
so we've discussed that in the past, and Diane and I and Eileen and Ellen came up with, we asked for 45 minutes at the Congress in Minneapolis, and we're going to show the Peter Gleich film or talk for 15 minutes where he lays out the history of conflicts over water, which have been going on for thousands of years. People have been fighting over water, the access to water. And then he has in his 15 minutes some ideas of different ways to deal with these to avoid these conflicts in the future. And then maybe Eileen and I will lead a discussion of whoever's in the room about what WILPF branches can be doing about this and so on. So that's essentially what we've requested. And the deadline was the 13th of February. So we did it before the deadline. And
so good.
And we've also asked for a table my memory, I've only ever been to one Congress, but there are tables around in the rooms, and you can leave literature on the tables about whatever it is you want. I said, a Disarm Committee would like at least half a table to put some literature out about what we're doing and encouraging people to join us and so on and so forth. So that's what we've asked for at Congress. And I know the Program Committee of Congress is meeting quite often, and hopefully we'll find a spot, you know, in the 2.5 days to allow our presentation. And
Okay.
Eileen is on the committee, so I'm sure she will be advocating for our presentation.
Okay, so Pam with the reporting on the radioactive waste with ANA. Pam, did you have anything to say?
Anything
Wait.
new?
Oh, shoot, I lost it.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Somehow I lost my feed because I'm in chat and I can't figure out how to get out of it right away. All right. Well, I don't really have anything in particular to announce for that, but here, let me close that. Okay, now I'm back in the meeting. But the registration is open now for DC days, and we're really working on that. And we're kind of working on a report for the whole Green Pod, which works on the nuclear waste and nuclear pollution issues. And it's almost ready. I could make a report on it next week, more detail about what we're going to say about that with all the different people putting their input from the different places who are in affected communities, frontline communities who are working on this issue. So I'll give a more detailed report next time.
On the 25th of February. That's
Yes.
our next. Thank you very much. That's great.
Yeah. So Odile and divestment from weapons companies is next. Did anyone have anything to say about divestment?
Not at the moment. I've been not following up on very much, I'm sorry to say.
Okay, so I think we're kind of done with the campaign reports. There is advocate for end of war in Ukraine, but I think we covered that under Ukraine. So here we are for committee support project reports with treasurer. So Ellen.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to open something up that I got from Chris Wilbeck here. Hang on just a second.
But this is not actually fully up to date, is it?
Well, this is the 2023. And the 2023, the amount that she shows in her accounting is more than what I show, and that's fine with me. So I'm gonna, I don't know what the difference was, but we ended up on the plus side. So she says that at the beginning of the year, we had a balance of 3,714. And we had an income of 150 and an outgo of 894. And that 894 was broken down into the Zoom account, which was 150, and McGregor Eddy's trip for the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation event, and the checks that we wrote to World Beyond War and the Global Network to keep space for peace. And then I don't know what Open Collective is, but I assume one of these, an Action for Progressive Future. But I assume that perhaps Open Collective is what Black Alliance for Peace might call themselves for getting paid. And the $200, well, actually the $200 would have been what we gave to Roots Action. That's what it was. I believe, was the $200. So I am wondering, I've already told Jan that we want to go ahead and have the national WILPF pay for Alliance $200 to Alliance for Nuclear Accountability, but now we want to discuss whether we want to give these other sums to these organizations that really aren't advertising WILPF or actively involved with WILPF. And so what do you all think?
Right. So I agree with this, that we should consider spending our money elsewhere. And we've heard, you heard earlier about the idea of some of us going to Vandenberg, and that involves train tickets and an overnight stay, even at a Motel 6, even sharing a room can cost you $100. So, you know, we are going to be writing a proposal. McGregor has already written it, which I will be editing a bit, McGregor, to the mini grant committee, asking for $2,000. But because that committee is in hiatus and not meeting at the moment, we're not sure when that will come. So I think we should be spending some of our own money, disarm money, on helping the Vandenberg actions. So that was, and so I would, you know, propose or make a motion that we don't give the money to the 4 organizations that we have in the past. But for many years we've been sending this money with as Ellen has said, we don't get much payback for it. So I think we should be spending in our own projects. And what I didn't understand is how come we got as much as $3,400? I thought we were much lower than that, Ellen.
I know, but I'm not going to argue.
You're not going to argue with it, right? So if we really do have $3,400, then indeed, I'm sure we can help anybody from WILPF who actually gets to turn up at Vandenberg and use, you know, with a train ticket and then you've got to get a car. Getting from the Motel 6 or the railway station over to the Space Force needs a car. So
No, you don't. Can you just talk
okay.
to me about logistics? Please don't talk about logistics. You're making it sound much more difficult than it is. There's no cars needed.
All right. But nevertheless, there's money to be spent. And so I think reimbursing disarm members who do this important work of turning up and making, you know, you won't get arrested, you know, unless you try to rush into the base. But if you just stand outside in a polite way with your signs, you won't get arrested, right?
Well, please don't make statements that you don't know are true. We can't guarantee that people don't get arrested. So don't issue guarantees. If people want to inquire, it's usually predictable, and usually you decide if you want to risk arrest, but we can't promise people that they will not be arrested. So please do not do so.
Okay.
It is illegal. We're doing a legal demonstration. We're following all the base's advices. We've been there 3 times this year and everything's been fine, but we can't make promises.
Okay. All right. So nevertheless, money is involved getting there. So Treasurer, do we need a motion to stop sending the money to those, was it 4 organizations?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to move that motion and I'll second it?
Sure, fine. I so move.
All right. And I second it. So we need any more discussion? Anybody? Okay. A&A will get their $200 because that comes from a different pot of money that National provides every
Every
issue
year for
committee
the last
gets,
several years, yes.
yes,
Before that, we were paying it.
right. But now we're talking about these other organizations that essentially would like about $500 that we would send out. Okay, any further discussion? We don't, this motion is just to stop sending it to them. We don't have to say who else we'd use it on instead. That would be a different discussion at a later
Well,
time.
can you announce who they are?
Can you go back over
Well,
who
I
those?
did. It was $100 each to World Beyond War, Global Network to Keep Space for Peace, and Black Alliance for Peace. And then this last year, we had a special $200 to Roots Action.
Right. So I'm sorry, you cut out at one point. Tell us the full name of the Keep Something for Space.
Global
Keep-
Network to Keep Space for Peace.
Global.
And this was a project that
Global
Carol
Network
Erner was very invested in.
to
and,
keep Space for Peace.
Who was invested in that?
Carol Erner.
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
think it's a great organization, but I just think right now we just need the money for these other causes that we're
We don't
trying.
have money coming in like we used to, so.
But what about World Without?
World Beyond War, we can maybe give it on for various and sundry events or something that they're doing that we want to support, but.
Oh, well, we're doing the walk. Maybe that's the way, and we contributed a lot to that, correct?
Well, we contributed money, $1,000 to the No to NATO. Wilf
It's not to
did.
the walk. It's not to the walk. That's a separate thing. It's
And
just
that
to,
wasn't us, that was WILPF.
I thought it was,
US, that wasn't Disarm.
Right, but still they got money and
Yeah,
World
right.
Beyond War is the main
And
sponsor of that.
they're pretty well
that's my
funded.
point.
They're
Yeah,
well funded.
they already got money
Yeah.
from
They got
us.
a lot more than we got.
Well, we know that they're well connected.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Got it.
right. So any further discussion or Diane, do you want to call a vote?
Yeah, sure. All in favor? Just raise your hand or say aye and everyone. Okay.
Aye.
I don't see Dako.
Aye.
Great, thanks. Okay, and Joe and I heard. Okay, so it's unanimous.
Right. All
But
right.
we're all in favor of not sending the money to these other organizations this year. We
Right.
have this other cause we're working on.
Right. And you got for the purpose of the minutes, what is the balance according to Chris Wilbeck? 3,000.
Hang on.
3714, I thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And interestingly enough, I did send a bunch of money through the Peace Development Fund for Disarm, and that hasn't appeared yet. So there,
Hi.
It's $3,469.74.
Oh,
And
I thought it
that's
was-
a $500 annual
Hi.
donation.
Oh,
Jean, you need to mute yourself. So I just read a Darien email to just a few of us. So it has been the habit that each issue committee gets $500 from the central WILF budget every year. And that's one of the reasons we've actually got as much as 3,000 odd, right? But because WILF is looking at some large deficit this year, they may be cutting that down to $300 instead of 500. But that hasn't, that number, 3,400, actually doesn't include the 2024 donation.
Oh.
It does?
Oh,
Because that
no, it doesn't.
does not, right. So that should assume that will go up by another 300. I see Pam's
Well, I
hand.
don't know. It might go down by 200 because I'm not quite sure about this because when it was the 3 organizations or 4 organizations that we were giving the money to, then it was applied to, it was taken out of the 500. But if we're not giving it to them, then maybe at the end of the year, if we haven't spent everything else, then they may not leave it in our account. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Pam, your hand is up.
Okay, well, before we made this vote, I had emailed Ellen and I didn't get a reply, but the youth group that are part of the Alliance for Nuclear Accountability, I can't remember the title, but anyway, the youth group. And they're asking if we could chip in any money for a scholarship to get youth to Washington, DC for DC days. And last year we brought some people from reservations, I think a Pueblo reservation in New Mexico and one in Arizona and some Cherokee person. And I can't remember if I think he lived in Arizona or something. Anyway, we brought people from the Southwest who were from affected communities, youth. And so anyway, they're asking for whatever you can contribute for a scholarship. And so I thought maybe a couple of $100 if we can afford it. So that's a request.
Right. So what do people think? So ANA has these DC days where they lobby people in DC, and then they have meetings to discuss nuclear weapons and getting rid of them. It's what they call a peace pod. The green pod is dealing with radioactive waste and mining and things like that. Apparently they bring young people from indigenous communities and to bring them, and they cost money because they can't afford to do it, but they're looking for donations to help such people attend this year. So we need to decide today, right, Pam?
Well, or next week.
Time.
Our next meeting. You can decide now or next meeting.
Right. Well, does anybody have any strong? We've got $3,400. This is we're always complaining there was not enough youth involved in some of this disarmament work.
Jane, you got to unmute. Unmute. Jane, unmute.
Anyway, thank you. I've interviewed young indigenous people, and they have gone to ANA. They have gone to Japan for the big international meetings, and they're very active, and they've experienced it on their lands. There are piles of uranium on certain tribal lands that have been very destructive. There has been water destroyed by fallout from dangerous substances that are used in nuclear weapons. So I think they're very promising as to be learning about this process and being able to relay it to their own communities and elsewhere in the public. I initially I thought, oh no, not more, but I really do think that it's a very good idea.
Would you like to make a motion, Jean?
Yes, I so move that we offer a scholarship or
$200.
$200, yes, for an indigenous youths to come to Washington for DC days.
To help. $200 isn't going to get them very far.
No.
It goes into a fund, out of which.
Good.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion?
Discussion? All in favor?
Yes, yes.
Joan and Eileen, I guess,
Yep.
Wave your hand. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay, I think it's unanimous.
Okay, and Ellen, you know where to send it, right?
Um,
Who?
What's her name? Oh, what's her name? I'll send you the address.
Send me an
Jennifer
email.
Burek, you know,
Send
whoever.
me an email, please.
Jennifer Burek in New Mexico. Do you want the address or do
I
you
want
need?
you to send me an email telling me where to send it
All right,
It's Chris Wilbeck who
and
will
what
actually.
and what it's for, and then I'll forward it to Chris.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And thank you for the everybody for agreeing to that. It's one of these things that, you know, I'm learning this in my other volunteer activities, that if you hang on to your money and you don't spend it, then the people in charge say, they're not spending any money, we're not going to give them any more. You know, so we do need to spend it. Okay. Besides the fact that it's towards a good goal, a good end.
Okay, so the next item is the website, Disarm website.
Right. So again, myself, Diane, and Ellen, we've been working on new content for the new website. You've been hearing about the fact that all the issue committees were going to get new websites for the last 2.5 years. Well, we're really moving forward finally, and so we've been looking and writing out what we think the new website should have. We've been meeting, and Eileen has also been helping, I think. Anyway, so just to tell you that we are working on it, and eventually, and not too long from now, I hope, you will see the new websites for all the committees. So we've been sneaking a look up at the private ones of the other committees. So we're all following a similar template. We all have goals, we all have history, we all have values. So, you know, it's good for the committees to have a standard look about them. So somebody coming in can kind of see the similarity, and the words, of course, are different, but the topics that we cover are the same. And we're trying not to lose. Right. So we've had resources that we've developed in the past that are still actually pertinent. So Diane and I are trying to update some of those resource guides and give them new numbers. And then Glenn Ruger will put them in the website. He squirrels them away somewhere so that people, you know, looking to understand the differences between the TPNW and the NPT, for example, will find an up-to-date resource guide that explains that they both need to exist. Some people used to say, well, we have the NPT, we don't need the TPNW, but we think we've put that thought to rest. So I'm sure there will be a big brouhaha when they actually launch the new website. And of course, it's supposed to fit onto your little iPhone screen. That's one of the attributes about this new website. It will work if you're looking at it on that terribly small screen, which apparently more and more people, that's all they have is a fancy smartphone. They don't even have a laptop anymore. So that's anyway, so that's all, because eventually there's this professional contracted company that's actually going to take our text and format it nicely and put it into the new website. So just to let you all know, we are working on that.
Okay, and so the next meeting is set for the 25th of February. And I think that, you know, that's when that's our usual meeting time.
Right.
So is there any other business?
So we brought forward, we've already talked about a new New York City branch. And what was the other new branch?
Well, we have to compile the members. We have to find the members. And
yes.
That's a critical factor. So now I see I have to fill out a form. I've written to Chris And I have to find a way to get more addresses. We don't have any addresses. We don't have any telephone numbers,
Yeah, that's
any email addresses.
right, right.
We can't formulate, my idea was to just have meetings in the UN office, because at one point we were given permission to do that.
In the reaching critical will, you mean?
Well, it's not reaching critical will, it's the UN WILPF NPT, not NPT, NGO office. You know, it's larger than the,
It has peace women also.
it has peace women, yes, and it's been a meeting place. It's small.
But
But
it's
it-
near, it's quite
In the
near
church
to the
building.
UN. Mhm.
It's centrally located. That's the important thing.
In the
that-
church building across from the UN, right?
Yes, it is. But the important thing is that it's centrally located. There's no point in meeting in far Brooklyn or far Astoria. You want to meet right in New York City near
Right.
the.
Right. So just I'd like to remind you all that we do get several times a day interesting emails sent to us, both mostly to discussion, the discussion listserv, and the committee listserv is where we try to keep that to agendas and things that really located in what the committee, which is us, or all of us, are trying to do. So I did send you with the agenda for this meeting a link to our member called Brian Agostino, who apparently is now the editor of a journal called Disarmament Times.
He's he's a full professor at Columbia University,
Yes.
and he asked me to
Right.
speak at an international meeting about WILPF.
Right. So he's also organizing a webinar, which is different from the webinar Jean is going to be speaking about the Ukraine. No, about Gaza. No, about Ukraine. Pardon me. So he's trying to get speakers, and he writes very well. He writes articles explaining things, and he got Barbara Taft, all right, based on my suggestion that he contact Barbara Taft, who was a leader in the Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee, that he wanted someone knowledgeable about the situation in Gaza. I put him in touch with Barbara months ago, and she wrote a very interesting piece that I gave you a link to in the email that also has this the agenda for today. Okay, I recommend you take probably 20 minutes to read Barbara Taft's explanation of the history of Gaza and Palestine and Israel, and what's going on now and what might be able to be done about it. So he corresponded with Barbara, and she wrote this article, and he's published it. They have like 3 or 4 of these newsletters, journals a year. And then he's also going to do this webinar on the Ukraine war. He asked me for a suggestion for that, and I actually said Medea Benjamin, who has written a book about the Ukraine-Russia war. I suggested that he asked her to be a panelist. He said he already on the Ukraine war. No, I think yours is a different one.
About the Holocaust.
The Holocaust, right? So
About the Holocaust. I interviewed people walking around the street who had numbers on their arms, who were survivors. And he is a full professor at Columbia University.
Right.
He is psychohistory.
Right.
And
so that's a different webinar again.
He
Yes.
he heard me speak at something. It was a webinar, and he contacted me independently.
Right.
He
Right.
contacted me. So I'm working on a speech, and I maybe ask some of you to read it to see if it's accurate, because it's not fully about WILPF. His specialty is authoritarianism.
Okay. Yeah. No, he's and he came to a few meetings, about a year ago, and then we didn't see him for a while, and he told me he actually had a cancer in his somewhere up in the top half of his body. So, but it looks like he's got that under control because he's still working on these other things.
I think he and his wife would like to be in a WILF chapter, so I'm.
Yeah, so that was my point, to
Not
say
too bad.
they should be in a New York City chapter for sure, because they live in Manhattan. Yes, yes, excellent. Okay.
And
anything
I
else?
often find people's cell phone numbers. Oh, I'm sorry, but I often find people's telephone numbers and addresses. I just Google them. It's amazing what you can find just by Googling these
That's
people.
true. That's true.
So,
You can also look up
White pages.
pages.
Yeah, there's lots of ways that, it might be more information than you might even get from WILF, but whatever.
Yeah, it's very tedious when you have a lot of things to do. That's what I'm hoping that somebody will come up with.
That Chris.
Well, I think if you ask Chris Welbeck to give you the.
I did. I wrote to her, and I will call her. I
Yeah.
have called her a few times, but she had taken some time off. I think
Right.
over the holidays.
Right. She only works two days a week. You have to
Right.
catch her on those days. But I think we can say that the Disarm Committee has given you permission to ask for this information.
Okay.
Also, you're trying to reconstitute a branch. I don't see why they wouldn't give you any
know.
information you
Well, we
asked
have the names. We have quite a few names. And if any of you know anyone who would be interested in New York City, by all means, send the name to me, with any telephone number.
Are you also including Brooklyn and
Oh,
Bronx?
sure. I mean, that's New York City.
Right.
All the
right.
boroughs are New York City.
All right. Right. Okay. Not just Manhattan.
Right.
Okay.
Brooklyn.
It is 9:45 Eastern time. We have covered a whole lot, and I just
We
wonder.
sure have.
how
These
much
minutes
more
are
do we
going to
need
be
to
so
cover?
long. We didn't take decisions. We made pronouncements.
Well, we had two motions
We had
that we
two
passed.
motions.
Two motions, yes. Make sure those are
I
in.
think I have to put in comments that people made to
Right.
some extent.
Can somebody sneak a look and tell me, is the damn Super Bowl over yet?
Oh, no, it's just begun.
It began at 3:30 here.
16-13 in the fourth quarter.
To whom?
San Francisco.
San Francisco is ahead 16-13 in the fourth quarter, my husband tells me. He's
Oh,
took
well,
us.
if it's the fourth quarter, then it's almost over.
Right.
No, it just started.
Just started the fourth quarter. I don't know how they make these things last this long.
I'm
It's
glad we have somebody.
Jean,
Yes.
and anybody else who wants it, I just put the link for the YouTube recording into the chat. It's the last thing in the chat. If you click on it, you'll go to it and you'll
but-
have it.
but it's not closed yet. You're still recording.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's there.
It's there. Okay, I always thought you had to kind of close it. Anyway,
It says YouTube. Yes, I see
You
it.
don't have to close it
The link to
Okay.
to
YouTube.
get to it.
all right, fine. Well, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.